Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to take a look at Venus's upcoming square to Saturn and Neptune. I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for, and I'm going to give you 5 films that I think beautifully capture the square between Venus and Saturn and Neptune. I've been doing this lately. I think it's been really fun to include films that capture the archetypal essence of a transit. If you're like me, one of the ways that I learn astrology and that I learn the combination of archetypes is through things like film, fiction, literature, sometimes reflecting on current events, movies, plays. Uh, there is no place where the archetypes have more vivid representation than the arts, in my opinion. Obviously, in the arts, we reflect on the recurring themes of human existence, and this is the stage where the archetypes often present themselves. So I think it'll be fun to add some of that in. I've been sprinkling some of that in throughout the month of July. I'm going to continue doing it because I've also gotten great feedback from all of you. So anyway, I've got 5 really fun movies that I think fit Venus in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries, as well as 5 things to watch for given the archetypal combination in general. So that's our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. It is my goal to see if we can't get over the 100,000 subscriber mark on this channel within a year. Right now, we're 16 to 17,000 short of that. We'd really use your support. If you watch regularly, give us the thumbs up and the subscribe. It helps us grow what we're doing. And for that, we're really thankful. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I am really excited to announce that very soon on the website, we will be advertising, and on the channel, we will be advertising our first ever astrological training immersion retreat. It's an immersion, it's a training, it's a retreat. And you're going to find it on the events page starting probably next week. And it'll go on sale in the middle of August. There'll be an early bird sale. It is taking place in Mexico in June of 2026. I will tell you everything you need to know about the program. It is going to be an experiential immersion into divinatory astrology. What is astrology as divination? What does it look like and mean to be divinatory astrologer? That is going to be the focus of this really fun, immersive retreat experience. First retreat I've done since dating back to 2014. And so I'm really excited. We knew that after we had kids, it was probably going to take a few years before we'd be ready to have a retreat experience again, but here we are. So I'll be telling you more about that next week. In the meantime, check out the events page, go to live talks. You'll see that my webinar for August is on the 7th house, place of love and relationships. This is a karma house that pertains to desire and fulfillment of happiness in our relationships at a deeper level. We're going to look at this house, give you some thoughts on how to work with it in your own chart, understand the karma and patterns of love and relationships. So check that out August 14th. If you register and you can't attend live, you get the recording. You get it either way, but hope to see you there live at the webinar on the 14th of August. So on that note, let us now shift our attention to the real-time clock, where today we're going to continue exploring Venus's upcoming squares to Saturn and Neptune, who are closely conjoined in the sign of Aries. All right, here's the real-time clock. And we're looking today at, tomorrow we're going to be doing some coverage of Mercury's cazimi, which is coming up this week on the 31st. Today, Tuesday, we are prepping for the big transit of the week, which is Venus's square to Saturn and Neptune. I would typically offer this coverage closer to the actual transit, but at the end of this week, we're going to be doing our monthly overview for August and our horoscopes for August. And so I'm kind of prepping us for Venus's square to Saturn and Neptune today. You will hear us cover the Venus square to Neptune and Saturn in the monthly overview as well at the end of the week. So there will be more coverage on this as the week goes on. Anyway, Venus will enter the sign of Cancer on the 30th. That's tomorrow. Once Venus enters Cancer, then by the 1st, which is Friday, Venus will square Saturn and Neptune in Aries. That will then last in the 3-degree range of separation that we give planets in ancient astrology until Sunday. So we're talking about Wednesday through Sunday of this week, or the 30th through the 3rd as the engagement range. That's the range within which you will likely see these themes manifest. Now, on the 31st, which is just a little bit earlier in the week, Thursday, Mercury will also be cazimi with the sun. I'll be doing horoscopes on that tomorrow, just in case you're wondering where coverage on that is fitting in. In the meantime, I have 5 things for us to watch for, given that within this square from Venus in Cancer to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, Saturn is in the superior position. What that means is that within the archetypal exchange between the two planets, the planet in the superior position, which is a technical concept in Hellenistic astrology, I've explained many times before, so I won't go into it so much now. Saturn has the upper hand. Saturn's in that superior position, then within the dynamic, Saturn's presence will apply more pressure on the dynamic, which means you have a Venus-Saturn combination, for example, that is a little bit more heavy on the Saturn. Any kind of exchange between planets that takes place between squares, sextiles, trines, will always have one planet that's superior and one that's inferior, which generally means one is receiving more of the other. So in this dynamic, we have Venus receiving a bit more of the heaviness from Saturn. Of course, Saturn conjoining with Neptune brings even greater weight or gravitas to the pressure applied to Venus. So given all of that as a technical background, these are the 5 things that I think we ought to watch for in no particular order. 1, Venus in Cancer speaks to relationships, but specifically the emotional substance of our relationships. What allows us to keep in healthy, bonded attachments? There's been a lot in the past few years that I've learned about, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about as well, with attachment styles. This is not brand new, but it's become a lot more popular in, say, the last 5 years to learn about different attachment styles that we all have. Ideally, according to attachment theory, as I've understood it, we all want secure attachment, which means that we're attached. We're not so independent that we have no bondedness, no vulnerability, nothing at stake. Relationships imply that something is at stake emotionally, and there should be a sacred sense of vulnerability, of a little bit of fragility, not a weakness necessarily, but a sense that this means something to me, and I would really not feel great if this emotional bond or attachment was taken away. At the same time, we don't want to become attached in a way that's really anxious. We also don't want to become attached in a way that's avoidant. Well, I love you, but I'm going to keep you at a distance. Or I love you, but I'm so attached that it's riddled with anxiety and it becomes overly needy. So those kind of extremes, for example, I think are the kinds of dynamics within relationships that Venus in the sign of Cancer will often bring up, attachment styles, right? Well, when Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries are placing pressure on Venus, one of the things that can come up is emotional attachment styles or patterns can be challenged or brought to the surface. If they've been invisible and maybe unhealthy, now we can see them. If there's been too much standoffishness and there needs to be healthier bondedness, we may see that. If there's been too much anxiety, we may see that. So one of the things that I'm looking at for the square this week is that Saturn and Neptune may help us. If we need greater individuality to help us be more secure in our attachment, great. This combination might provide that. On the other hand, if we tend to be avoidant in our attachment patterns, then this transit could provide that. And you can see how it could go in either direction based on the strength of Saturn and Neptune in Aries, placing some pressure on the bondedness of Venus in Cancer. So I'm looking at it as one very valid way of considering the archetypal combination this week would be in terms of attachment styles being challenged. Number 2, romantic ideals being challenged. Let's move out of the realm of attachment styles within relationships, and let's think about Venus in terms of the ideal standards or images of beauty, happiness, pleasure, harmony, whether that's aesthetic and has to do with your own style, or it's sensual, it has to do with your love life or your lovemaking, or it has to do with the kinds of colors that you prefer in a bedroom. When I think of Venus, I think of those ideal images on an archetypal level that in the sign of Cancer especially make us feel good or are connected to a sense of safety, warmth, connectedness. And there are a series of images or ideals that are kind of emotionally charged in the sign of Cancer that we all have. And maybe it's a good time to be reflecting on some of those, deepening some of those while Venus is in the sign of Cancer. The square from Saturn and Neptune in Aries may provide challenges to those ideals, and it can go in one of two different directions most commonly. The first direction would be to say, that's unrealistic, that's needy, that is too much, that's not independent enough, there's something about that need or desire, that romantic ideal, that is regressive or immature or emotionally manipulative or something like that. So if we have expectations of things in our life to be way too cushy, way too sweet, to the point that it's self-absorbed and needy and not grounded, those romantic ideals, the Venus in Cancer version of romantic ideals, may be challenged. Get more real, grow up, individuate, get better boundaries, don't be so needy, etc. So the images of happiness or the images of warmth or comfort or pleasure that Venus in Cancer provides can go through something of a gut check. That's the one direction. On the other hand, Saturn and Neptune could provide sort of a gut punch and act like a dream killer. If you've ever been around, like I think of my grandfather, and he liked a lot of cowboy movies. He was kind of old school, and he had a mentality of the real, like, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You can imagine a young kid, like I was a little Cancerian, sweet, soft moon kid. And when I was around him, he scared me a lot. He scared me a lot because anytime I exhibited artistic, kind of romantic Cancerian sensibilities or sensitivities or gentle, imaginative longings, there was a way that I felt like he wanted to swat that down, which I had to learn to resist and live through and hold on to those parts of myself, which unfortunately meant I didn't have much of a relationship with him. I kind of avoided him. And then later in life, I had some very meaningful, I think, confrontations and meetings of the heart with my grandfather before he died that I wrote about in my first book, and that meant a lot to me. But Venus in Cancer may have to survive the sort of hard old man who doesn't think that soft, gentle, romantic yearnings or longings are okay, like a dream killer, or an overly hardened, rough kind of bullying energy that's trying to push Venus out of her spot. So watch for that, because again, on the one hand, Saturn Neptune maybe provides a healthy check, a reality check for romantic ideals represented by Venus in Cancer. On the other hand, don't get bullied around by the same exact energy. I could see it going in either direction. All right. Another basic way I could see this showing up would be in terms of the Aries Cancer emphasis on individuality, individuation, independence, all the I words that Aries frequently represents, and the bonded realm of intimacy, connection, flowing webs or systems of exchange between souls, like family, clan, tribe, culture, all words that come to my mind. Networks of people connected by loving concern and care, a sense that I'm here to steward the well-being of other people. I'm here to experience joy and happiness through emotional closeness to other beings. Those are the values of Venus in Cancer. Aries is so much the path of, and it's an equally valid path, right? I'm here to become something independent and apart from others that has to resist the conflation or loss of identity with others, with groups, with family. How are both things true right now? That might be a good question, a tension to hold, but watch for themes of individualism versus intimacy or connection to be highlighted somehow. And you could really see that going in either direction again. Number 4 would be a sobering, a focusing, a refining, a tightening, all Saturn words of various values and ideals represented by Venus. What do I like? What do I love? What is my taste? What is my style? What is my preference? What makes me happy? All of those things we talked about earlier can simply go through a period of greater maturation, a period of refining, tightening, focusing, sobering, individualizing. We may have various ideals, things that make us happy, but what does that mean to come into individual expression, or a bit more, let's call it individual ownership of our likes and dislikes? So I could also see Saturn and Neptune providing us with a sense of needing greater maturation, focus, consistency, discipline, adultness, so to speak, with respect to those things that we love and care for or desire. I think about this as the kind of sobering wake up call that a young person gets when they start learning a musical instrument and they suddenly have this epiphany that if I want to be as good at this as I hope or imagine or long to be, it is going to require consistent effort over many, many years of my life. When I remember that when I was like 13, 14, playing guitar and just being like, holy shit, you know? And obviously I didn't really go down the path of professional musicianship, and no offense to those of you who did. But the point is that I remember that very sobering moment of being like, okay, wow, there's like mass, when you kind of get a glimpse of like, oh, wow, the people who are really, really good at this, at some point they had to get really serious and focused and make a decision or a commitment to something that they loved or cherished or valued. So devotion without consistency, consistency without devotion, the two really do need each other. And I think this could be a transit that brings that up somehow, the need for both. Number 5 is fierce love. I think Saturn, Neptune in Aries has a sense of mission behind it, a sense of crusade. This is something I'm fighting for, advocating for. This is something I have to passionately burn with inside of me. When you add that into the deep care and concern and devotional sort of magnitude of Venus co-present with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, I think you may come away with, this is what I fiercely love. This is, I am getting clear about something that I love so much that it is going to take me on some kind of quest, crusade, adventure. The heroic journey begins right now with respect to this thing I cherish, to this thing that I love. Could be a little unexpected. The reason that I would say that this could be surprising on some level, being surprised by a mission or a quest related to something or someone we love, or something that requires a sacrifice or an outpouring of devotion and support that we weren't necessarily expecting, is because this week we've got a Mercury cazimi, and right in the mix of all of this is Uranus and Gemini sextiling Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Feels like this could be a week where there's that blazing epiphany-like moment in the midst of all of this that is a little powerful and unexpected. So I would watch for almost like a bit of a catharsis around this Venus square to Saturn and Neptune, where clarifying what we care about really deeply and what that's going to mean. Something that's starting. This is Venus at the early degrees of the new sign, right? So something starting, Mercury at the heart of the sun coming out as a morning star, something starting. It's an inceptional moment on some level, and it might be about something that we are being tasked to care for and love that constitutes some kind of crusade or adventure. So I use the phrase fierce love. Now I want to tell you, I've been having a lot of fun doing this, which is to come up with movies that I think embody an archetypal combination, just in case you feel like you want to go watch a good movie, a movie that I've enjoyed, maybe you'll enjoy. I can't guarantee you'll like my taste, or that you'll necessarily see what I see, but I'll tell you why I like these films and what they represent to me in relation to the archetype. So 5 films that I think nicely embody Venus in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. We were talking about the romantic ideals challenged. And one of the films that came to my mind was the film Black Swan. I remember seeing it in a movie theater in New York City when I lived there. I think it's Natalie Portman, but anyway, it is about artistic perfection and a kind of sobering moment where certain kinds of perfect ideal standards are being challenged. Is the price of perfection stealing your soul, stealing your very sanity and essence? I think with Venus squaring Saturn and Neptune, questions about ideals and how far we go, how we can get possessed by perfectionism when it comes to art, beauty, and a story about getting possessed by perfectionism to the point of becoming almost dismembered by it. I love the movie Black Swan. It's a little dark. Number 2 on my list is The Impossible. I'm sure that some of you have seen this already. I'm trying to remember what year did it come out here. I had it written down. 2012. So yeah, the tsunami strike in, where was it? Malaysia? I think it was Malaysia, or was it Thailand? I can't remember. But this was about the existential threat to a family that was being separated and trying to survive the tsunami, that massive tsunami. So one of the reasons that I like this, although it's an epic movie, I'm not necessarily certain that it would be stress relieving. But if you're into that, if you're in, like, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was thrilling, and it was very inspiring to have sometimes we hear about these natural disasters, and when you actually, I don't know, this movie gave me a feel for it that was really, it deepened my empathy, and also a deeper connection to like natural forces. Anyway, but this movie has an element of a mom trying to survive and a family trying to meet the challenges of a devastating natural event. So it's sort of heroic, and it's that fierce protective love and survival and bondedness amidst heroic challenges that struck me as the Venus in Cancer, a water sign, square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. The other one, I just watched this like a couple of nights ago with my kids, is Arrival. So one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love it, especially because of the nonlinear conception of time that is involved in the plot line of the movie. I won't say anything other than that in case you haven't seen it. But I love this movie because there's basically aliens that appear on Earth, and I think is it Amy Adams? Is that her name? I can't remember the actress. This is the problem with telling you about these movies. I can't remember any of the actors. She is a linguist who is tasked with trying to communicate to the aliens, and there's basically two divergent opinions that are taking place among human beings about how to communicate with this species. One is through love, care, compassion, and humanness, and the other is through fear, paranoia, and hence aggression and violence. And she finds this amazing way to help people come together to communicate from the heart with another species. I'll put it that way. And she also has to make some really difficult choices as a mom that are very heroic and tied intimately to the choice for love rather than fear. I love the combination of Venus in Cancer for a mom who's a linguist trying to talk to aliens and trying to do so while all of these other governments are choosing fear and war to try to approach the aliens. So I think that's a great, it's a little bit, I think it's just because it's on my mind that I was thinking about it. But number 4 is Interstellar. Also watched this movie recently. I guess I've been revisiting sci-fi movies. I watched The Martian recently as well. I think this is my oldest daughter is really getting interested in sci-fi. So we've been watching some of these together. Been super fun. Anyway, Interstellar is very similar in terms of the quest for a new planet and a new way to live, because humans are killing the Earth, or the Earth is dying because of human pollution and toxicity. The Earth is like dying, and the people have to go and find another place to live. And that process pits, again, very similar to Arrival. And I think they came out fairly close to one another. When was that? Okay, so Arrival was 2016, Interstellar was 2014. I think The Martian was like 2015. There were like 3 years where there were just like all these great epic sci-fi movies. Anyway, so in trying to find a new place to live, the element of human survival at all costs in a kind of ruthless, individualistic, rooted in fear and survival is pitted against survival that happens through love, compassion, and connection. And those two themes around family and around survival are really very powerful. I love the movie Interstellar. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. super fun, nonlinear conceptions of time that are also right in line with the history of astrology. Finally, on my list is Castaway, a movie I watched a few years ago with my oldest daughter, maybe like 2 years ago. She asked me if there were any movies about people getting stuck on islands, and I was like, by God, there is. I was like, yes. And Castaway. So, he has the relationship with the volleyball. Anyway, one of the things that I love about that movie is that here's someone who loses his spouse and he's marooned. He's all on his own on an island. And he has to develop a sense of loving companionship and connection because no one can be alone. And so he develops a relationship with a volleyball that he calls Wilson. I love that movie so much. It's a great Tom Hanks, movie. It's, I like him as an actor, and so I really enjoyed that movie. But it really does pit the themes of individuality against bondedness. He can't survive being completely alone, and yet he goes through this perilous, individualistic, isolated, mystical experience being marooned on an island. And part of how he comes through it is to get innovative with not just survival physically, personally, but survival emotionally. And I think those pairings of themes work really well for this transit as well. So anyway, I hope you've been enjoying this kind of exploration of archetypes in films. I love it. I feel like it's new content that I'm just really enjoying coming up with. So yeah, I hope. And any of these films you could check out and like or not like. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not saying anyone has to have the same taste that I do, but yeah, check them out if you want some interesting additional insight into archetypes. That's where I learn and have for years learned through watching archetypes in film, fiction, etc. So, all right, we'll leave it there for the day. I hope you're having a good one, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.